Alright, so today we will be testing the RTX 4080 in the highly anticipated Redfall. It launched yesterday, depending on which time zone you are. Currently we are sitting at 1440p on the Epic preset. This GPU is paired with an Intel 12700K running at stock, and that again is paired with the DDR4 3600 MHz CL18 memory. Alright, let's just get into Redfall here. Now, this game is based on the Unreal Engine 4, and there's a lot of traversal stutter, which is inherent to the Unreal Engine 4. If you want to see more of that, I've just recently done a few videos on Jedi Survivor, and it suffers from exactly the same thing. Right, just have a look at the frame time graph there. That's just the traversal stutter. Now, a lot of games try to get around this by pre-compiling shaders, and some of that can take quite a while. Just look at that massive stutter there, a massive frame rate drop. I think we even went below 40 frames per second, and that's as you move into a new area, new shaders have to compile, and it's just quite heavy on this system. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing this game at all. I'm not a game reviewer. There's a lot of other people that'll do a much better job than me. I'm just here to benchmark the game, and wow, that is terrible. There's nothing happening on the screen whatsoever. There's no enemies here. I did fight a vampire just a little bit earlier, and then I reloaded into the game, and now he's gone. But this traversal stutter, I'm not sure if it's just traversal stutters, but the frame time graph is going crazier, right? That's definitely not ideal. But you can see we're getting quite a high frame rate. I've got no idea where I'm supposed to be going. I went over a bridge or through a bridge earlier, and that's where we actually fought quite a few enemies. I think it's on that side. Anyway, so I'm going to be trying to go that way again. But you can see that at 1440p, even with a 12700K, we are CPU bound. The GPU usage is sitting below 80% most of the time. We are still getting a high frame rate, but the CPU is definitely the bottleneck in this situation, as the GPU is not being fully utilized. So I've actually seen that in certain cases, we actually get the same frame rate at 1440p than what we do at 4K. It's just because in the scenarios where the CPU is limiting us that much, there's no difference once you actually increase the resolution. Right, I just want to show you one thing. Like the flames in this game, they look okay, and the way they spread, it's also okay. But just look at the car explosion, yeah? Like, this is definitely nothing to write home about. And that was it. But you can see here that our frame rate is pretty high here. It's dropping into the 90s, and in these areas here, even at 4K, the frame rate stays pretty much the same. Sure, the frame rate max is definitely higher at 1440p than it is at 4K. That's to be expected, obviously, but the overall experience seems to be pretty much the same. I'll move over to 4K soon. I just want to show you what the gameplay is like. If I can find, oh, that's a terrible stutter right there. If I can actually find some enemies to fight. This is a pretty empty map. I honestly only killed one vampire so far since I exited the gate at the top there, which feels like half an hour ago already. Maybe I'm just not going the right way. I do know I need to be in here, so maybe if I open this, we'll get some enemies. I can hear enemies, but I'm not... Ah, here we go. Ah, we finally found some enemies. Vampires and humans. That's a combination you don't want to fight. And then you have to kill the vampires with your stake. Obviously, because it's a vampire. I've actually got two shotguns here, so I keep on switching my guns, and then it just goes back to shotgun again. I think there's a healer here. Is that a healer? I just saw them linked. And I died. What's up with that? Oh, that's embarrassing. Alright, but maybe now's a good time to switch over to 4K. Let's just reset our numbers here. So you can see we're around 20 to 30 frames per second lower in this specific area. Frame time graph does seem to be a little bit more inconsistent than at 1440p, but our GPU usage is now sitting at around 100% right. There was another big traversal stutter there. Now that's what I just don't understand about this. Traversal stutters actually occur when you load into a new area, and then those shaders should be cached. But every time we move into this area, there's that stutter. So either the cache is not working or that's not a traversal stutter. Got no idea what's going on here, but they are pretty annoying. Luckily, we've now found some enemies to fight. Yeah, hopefully I don't die again. I mean, I can't promise anything. Maybe I should just try and use the environment a bit more. And maybe hit some headshots, because they seem to work at least. But during combat, the frame rate doesn't suffer too much, it seems. So definitely that red stuff we should avoid, apparently. And maybe I should just aim down sight. It's just better. Okay. Right, so we aren't fully GPU bound all the time. Just look at that traversal stutter again. Definitely needs some work, this game. But at 4K, getting between 80 and 90 frames per second, definitely not bad. This is without any upscaling. Now, you'd notice at 1440p I didn't test upscaling or change the quality presets. It's because we were fully CPU bound, so changing the graphical settings wouldn't have changed the frame rate in any significant way. But at 4K we'll be testing on the high preset, and then we'll test DLSS as well. Let's just get back to that area again. It's actually quite nice. The time of day changes. It's now getting darker and darker, so maybe we'll see some more vampires as soon as it's dark. I mean, it makes sense. But at 4K, the average frame rate is definitely acceptable. I'd play like this. No upscaling whatsoever, almost 100 frames per second, and the graphical fidelity is pretty good. So that's definitely not a bad experience. The only bad experience is the stuttering, and the frame rate drops as soon as there's a lot of enemies on screen. Now running around in this area of town. Oh, there's an enemy. Sweet. There's not a lot happening here. As you can see, I would have expected a lot more vampires. Game feels a bit empty. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not here to comment on that. Anyway, let's just look at the benchmark numbers. This vampire is quite quick. I can't even hit him properly. The shotgun is definitely the better weapon for this. Do I have a stake? No, I have to equip my shotgun and stake him. Alright, so this was at 4K on the Epic preset. Let's just lower the preset setting to high and see what happens to the frame rate. Alright, we're just going down to high. Upscaling is still disabled. And we got around a 10 frames per second increase. Let's just reset the numbers. And now we are CPU bound once again, because the GPU usage is dipping below 90% at times. So I don't think changing the quality preset any lower would gain us some more frames, as we aren't fully GPU bound. We might gain a few frames, but nothing too substantial. You can just have a look at the frame time graph once again. The stuttering is becoming a lot worse. This is actually where I saw the most stutters, was in this specific area here. There's a sniper, or it's a robot, it's a turret. There we go, that helps. I'm pretty sure that lady was supposed to help me. Anyway, so over here getting more or less the same. Okay, dropping into the 60s there. Not ideal at all. I was just before I actually started making this video, I thought to myself that it's nice that there's not a lot of stuttering during gunfights, but I was mistaken. Now I'm playing this game on the Xbox Game Pass, so it was free in a way. I mean, obviously you pay for the Game Pass, but it didn't cost me anything extra. So if I don't like this game, or if I do find the performance to be so bad that I don't want to play, just said it's literally no loss to me whatsoever. There are games that I do play on Game Pass, like Forza Horizon and Flight Simulator, believe it or not. So if this game doesn't work out, then it's not the end of the world. Alright, so this was at 4K high. I'm just going to stand right here. Let's just lower it down to medium. We're getting around 90 frames per second. Let's see if we gain any frames. Alright, still at 4K, just on the medium preset, no upscaling. Remember, we had 90 frames per second here, and it increased it a little bit. We're now at 90. Okay, what's happening? It's now dipping below 85, 86. Just look at the GPU usage there. It's fluctuating quite a lot. I'm standing still. I'm not doing anything. The GPU usage is just fluctuating quite a lot, but it stabilized at 100 frames per second. All right, but I don't think medium is the best way to play this game. I think if you really have to, just play on the 4K Epic setting and make use of upscaling, right? Which is exactly what we are going to be testing right now. So this game supports FSR, DLSS, XeSS, and spatial upscaling. So we'll just go with Nvidia DLSS. We're on 4K, so I'm just going to go with quality at the moment, still on the Epic preset. And we actually have DLSS frame generation as well, which should help us quite a lot here. But first, let's just test with the frame generation off, and we'll enable Nvidia Reflex Low Latency. All right, so this is where we'll be testing it first. So as you can see, no meaningful uplift in the performance. We were standing still here at around 85, between 80 and 85 frames per second. This is now DLSS quality. And now you can see that the GPU usage is dropping below 70% even at times. That's not stutter that caused that. It's just the GPU usage is pretty low. So it's CPU bound, right? And that's exactly where frame generation will come in handy, because it can increase your frame rate even when you are CPU bound. I'm not going to be spending too much time here. DLSS doesn't seem to increase our frame rate that much, but you have to enable DLSS for frame generation to work in this specific game. Now there's two types of DLSS: DLSS Super Resolution, which is the upscaling one, and DLSS frame generation, which is obviously inserting AI generated frames. It's more commonly referred to as DLSS 3, but that's just a combination of DLSS Super Resolution, Nvidia Reflex, and frame generation. All right, let's just enable frame generation and see how it goes. So Nvidia frame generation is now enabled, and we lost the setting for Nvidia Reflex, so that should be forced on, because I haven't come across any game where you can actually manually disable Nvidia Reflex once you enable frame generation. And now we're getting above 100 frames per second, well, so far all the time. Now frame generation can actually help with stuttering as well. It won't help with traversal stutters, obviously, because the level has to load in, so that's to be expected that it can't help there. But with the rest of the stutters, frame rate slowdowns, etc., it does help quite a bit. Let's just see if I can actually survive with this fight. I don't know, I'm really struggling with this game at the moment. But that's just me being me. I mean, my name is Lame Average Gamer, and I'm just being lame at this time. Alright, so I'm just going to be doing one more test. I'm going to keep the exact same settings. It's on the Epic preset, currently at 4K. I'm just going to lower it down to 1440p, because we didn't test frame generation at 1440p. And as I said, even when you are CPU bound, it'll help with increasing the frame rate. Right, so the rest of the settings are exactly the same. Epic preset, Nvidia DLSS set to quality, frame generation enabled, but now we'll just be doing it at 1440p. And for the first time, we're getting a very high refresh rate experience, right? So I've got a 165 Hertz 1440p panel that I use as my daily monitor, and this is then maxing that out, which is pretty good to see. I mean, sure, you don't buy an RTX 4080 to play at 1440p, but some games I do appreciate a high refresh rate experience, and that's where I'll be using 1440p. Obviously for most single players it's not necessary. 60 frames per second for single player games most of the time is fine, but I'm a frames per second junkie, and the higher the frame rate, the more enjoyable my experience. Alright, so that's going to be it for this video. As soon as I either die to these two vampires or I kill them. If I die to them, you'll just see me cut away. And if I do kill them, I'll obviously brag about it, so that'll be on screen then. I think I'm gonna make it. Let's just kill this one. And now we have to kill that one. And he actually regenerated. What's up with that? I didn't know they could do that. Gun just takes forever to reload though. And now we should be able to kill him. And there we go. Right, as I said, no problems whatsoever. Alright, so now it's really going to be the end of this video. So if you want a very high refresh rate experience with an RTX 4080, play at 1440p with frame generation enabled. This is a very good experience actually. Otherwise, play at native 1440p or even native 4K. The experience is good enough there. And then if you do want a little bit of a higher frame rate at 4K, just use DLSS quality and frame generation. You can also just leave it on the Epic preset, as we saw that lowering the preset quality didn't really change the frame rate that much. Alright, so thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, we hope to see you in the next one.